Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So, I'm coming at you with Tearlaments, a pretty unique take on Tearlaments. Well, I say pretty unique. I did actually take a couple of points of inspiration for this build. Mainly, I really just wanted to play a deck that had 3 Revolution Synchron in it. I really like this card, I have a playset of it, and I'm definitely looking to use it. So, I noticed that on Road of the King, they had this sort of Adventure Synchro style Tearlament deck that had top tournaments in Japan when Revolution Synchron came out. Now, there are quite a few differences between that OCG build at the time and this build right here. Mainly, of course, the fact that Chaos Ruler is banned, which is one of the main incentives to use Revolution Synchron, admittedly. But also, one thing that was pretty unique is that Water Enchantress was at 3 over there, but they also did not have the Wandering Griffin Rider. So, basically, they would more just use Illegal Knight instead of Wandering Griffin Rider as a going second bounce tool, but also as a Synchro material tool as well. So, there's a bit of a trade-off there, right? Like, we have a more robust adventure engine in the fact that we have an Omni Negate. Although, whoops, sorry, didn't mean to back out there. I actually clicked one of the buttons on my mouse there. But anyway, but not having 3 Water Enchantresses is also not that great because, admittedly, the ability to mill the Water Enchantress so much more easily was also pretty good. Oh, another difference is that the deck that I was looking at on Road of the King was actually using a Sinful Spoils package, which I have opted not to use here. The main reason I'm not using the Sinful Spoils package is that really, I don't know, the Diabell Star into Jet Synchron or Fengli isn't like terrible, but without Chaos Ruler, it's also really not that great. We don't really have a great Synchro 8 option. However, this is where I'm going to get to my other point of inspiration. Actually came from one of you viewers. Spiffy, I believe it was, over on the Discord server, submitted their stats for the, or submitted their player profile page to be counted towards our Plex leaderboard challenge. If you're more interested in more information on that and want to enter it, I'm going to link the video in the description below. It's a free challenge where you can win prizing, and all you have to do is play Ranked Ladder as you would normally with the untapped companion app that'll tally your win rate, and then, you know, so on and so forth. Anyway, more details are in the description below. But I noticed they had a pretty cool looking Synchro Tearlament build. They didn't have the Adventure package, but they were utilizing the Revolution Synchron with the Tearlaments to go into Vysis, utilizing a small package with Vysis, Rykart, as well as using Ancient Fairy Dragon to bounce between your various Vysis field spells. And I thought that was really cool. So I decided to kind of marry the 2 ideas together into this one deck. Again, those 2 points of inspiration were both very huge for me. Yeah, both OCG results from the past and viewer results from the now. So here's what this deck is kind of all about. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory in a lot of ways. We like to do the adventure stuff and the Tearlament stuff. What Revolution Synchron does for this deck, even though the Chaos Ruler is banned, is a couple of things. As I mentioned, the Ancient Fairy Dragon can help us bounce between the various Vysis field spells, but there's also a combo line where you can use the Revolution Synchron to go into the Baron plus Naturia Beast with the adventure stuff. Basically, the idea is if you have your adventure set up on the board, right, the token made from Rite of Armiseer plus the level 7 Wandering Griffin Rider with the Revolution Synchron in hand, you can, in theory, normal summon the Revolution Synchron, sync it with the Wandering Griffin Rider for the Baron, and then because you have a level 7 or higher Synchro monster in play, you can then bring back Revolution Synchron as a level 1 tuner. The adventure token is both level 4 and Earth. That means you can make the Naturia Beast. So it kind of upgrades your adventure lineup into, instead of just one single Omni Negate that shovels itself back into the deck, you get the Omni Negate plus the, you know, kind of endless spell card negates. Granted, the mills here will not proc the Tearlament cards because this is a cost. One other thing that won't proc a Tearlament name, I kind of thought like, oh, if we're doing Cherubni, can we send Havnus anyway? But no, Cherubni sends as a cost, and Havnus has to be sent off of a card effect. So, not quite the synergy there I was hoping for. Thankfully, I didn't like actually try that during a game. I did actually figure that out just by reading the effects there. So, But this deck is capable of just a lot of like really extensive and kind of freeform combo lines, which I think is really cool. There's a lot of moving pieces going on. You know, we have the Appaloosa because we have a lot of, like I said, moving pieces, and it's pretty easy to get disrupted and end up on a field of like totally random stuff. So the Appaloosa, if nothing else, gives us something to go into if we do get disrupted. We have the Cross Sheep. We can make the Astrolaud using Vysis, but not just Vysis. We also have the Vysis Ombriterra. Oh, that's another thing that you can do, right, with the Revolution Synchron. If you use Revolution Synchron to make the Ancient Fairy Dragon, while you have the Ancient Fairy Dragon up, you can bring back the Revolution Synchron, then go into the Vysis, add, you know, just any of your cards that mention it, probably one of the field spells, but then after that, you can also link off into the Lightheart, and then keep going into more plays, like for the Reichphobia, or so on and so forth. This also allows you to pivot into the Astrolaud as well, which is really cool, which with the help of the Cross Sheep can help you get even more materials, right? Oh, and then we can also banish a Rhinoheart to summon the Astrolaud. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the one of Reichheart, right? So that's pretty cool. Again, there's just a lot of like stuff you can do. There's just a lot of things happening in this deck, which is pretty neat. So I'm going to break down this list card by card, and actually let me think if there's anything else I really need to explain. The extra deck is fairly wide open, honestly, which you would think for such a mashup in the main deck, you'd be really restrictive on what you can go for in the extra, or what you can play, but not really the case at all. Like, the Dawn Dragster, I did not end up using at all. You could definitely play something else instead of that. Dragostapelia, same thing, if you wanted to play something else. I didn't even really go into the Lightheart line, so if you wanted to include, like, Baguska plus Zeus, which I think Spiffy was playing, you could definitely do that. Although I think Lightheart you should definitely keep. Just because I didn't make it doesn't mean it can't be useful, but instead of something like, I don't know, like Dawn Dragster and or Dragostapelia, those are some other additional extra deck options. So yeah, let's go ahead and break down this list card by card, and then we'll look at some of these games that I played in Master. So we are on 3 Maxi, 3 Speedroid Terratop, 1 Speedroid Takatomborg, 3 Ash Blossom and a Joy Spring, 1 Water Enchantress of the Temple, 1 Tearlaments Havness, 3 Revolution Synchron, 1 Fairy Tale Snow, 1 Scareclaw Reichheart, 2 Tearlaments Shiren, 3 Tearlaments Rhinoheart, 1 Vysis Starfrost, 1 Destrudo the Lost Dragon's Fission, 1 Wandering Griffin Rider, 1 Kashtira Fenrir, 1 Tearlaments Kashtira, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 Foolish Burial Goods, 2 Rite of Armiseer, 1 Scareclaw Rival, 1 Dracoback the Rideable Dragon, 1 Primitive Planet Reichphobia, 1 Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino, 1 Pressured Planet Raitsoth, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Tearlaments Scream, 1 Tearlaments Meta Noise, and then finally 1 Tearlaments Celiac, and that's going to round out our main deck. For the extra deck, we are on 1 Tearlaments Kiklos, 1 Predaplant Dragostapelia, 1 Tearlaments Volcalos, 1 Vicious Astrolaud, 1 Tearlaments Kaleidoheart, 1 Naturia Beast, 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, 1 FA Dawn Dragster, 1 Vysis Ombriterra, 1 Baron Diffler, 1 Time Thief Redoer, 1 Scareclaw Lightheart, there it is, 1 Cherubini, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss, 1 Cross Sheep, and then finally 1 Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess. That'll do it for our list. Let's see these games here. Okay, so this is going to be our first game against Mathmech. I resized myself in the corner of the screen because I realized I was a little big there. But, yeah, our first game is going to be against Mathmech. We're going to be going second. And, like, I don't want to toot my own horn too much or anything, but, like, we're going to have some really good games to watch. I had a really, really good play session with this deck. So we're going to start by going second against Mathmech. They're going to lead with the Cynet mining for the, what is it? The, of course, circular. What is it? Well, I was trying to think of what they discarded. It was Imperm. But no, of course they're going to be adding the circular here. Activating circular effect to send to the Sigma. Sigma F is going to activate. And then when circular is going to activate its effect, I'll go ahead and use the Tearlaments Havness here. They do have an Ash Blossom for that, so no mills here. But one thing that's kind of interesting, right, is that I have the Tearlaments Kashtira in my hand. And this card is just able to activate as a quick effect. Because I have the Havness in hand, I could banish it at pretty much any moment to summon this and mill a couple of cards. So what I'm going to do here is something that a lot of Labyrinth players will do with their furniture, or just decks or scenarios where you have the ability to use a quick effect at any moment. What I've been doing here during the actual game is holding my toggle to off. I'm going to wait until the Mathmech player summons 5 monsters, and then I'm going to flip it to on to kind of trick them, I guess, into thinking that I have an Abiru with the priority getting passed to me. So they've summoned twice. This is the 3rd summon. Alimbertion is going to activate and add the diameter here. But they make a misplay here that I've made before, honestly. They normal summon Defensor instead of Diameter, likely looking for more bodies. But unfortunately, this means that Diameter is not only not able to be normal summoned, but because it's now in the hand, they now can't mill it later with Terahertz, right? So, now they are not able to set up the Omni off of the Super Factorial, which is really, really good for me. So it's not as easy to tell in a replay, but as I was playing this game live, again, I was holding the toggle to on, and between each of my opponent's plays, there was a lot of hesitation. I could tell my Nibiru bluff was working here. So they're going to bring back the Guardian, and I think this might be why they end up making some kind of weird plays here. Is because I was holding my toggle to on. So they're going to go for the Splash Mage, not use the effect, link it off with the Guardian for the Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker is going to bring back that Splash Mage, which will now use its effect. That's actually a pretty typical thing you do in Mathmech if you're going for Terahertz plus Heat Soul to set up the Cynet conflict, because you would use the Terahertz to send the Cynet or the microcoder and then bring it back with the Splash Mage. But here, they're going to send a Dotscaper. So now I know they can't set up Super Factorial plus D-Save Worm, because they don't have 3 Mathmech names in the yard, right? Rather, they have just 2, Circular and Sigma. So yeah, no Laplacian off of the Super Factorial plus D-Save Worm. Now they're using the G-Golem here, and I'm like, are they making Singularity in the main monster zone? Which is what they do in fact end up doing. So, again, I don't know if these weird plays were because I was bluffing the Nib. Although, to be fair, the normal summon Defensor did come before I started flipping the toggle on with the Tier Cash F. But Singularity plus Terahertz, I mean, that is, of course, a great end board alongside everything else. But not putting this in the EMZ means that they can't actually get the effect of summoning a card from the graveyard, because they can't, they're not pointing to my zones, right? They can still bounce stuff, though. So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty regular end board, but it's not the most optimal version of one. Okay, so Terahertz just sent the D-Save Worm there, which means that now Super Factorial can't go for Laplacian. So I already know that's not going to be much of a factor here, or a factor at all. But I do still need to play around D-Save Worm, as well as the Singularity bounces, so, and possibly a back row too. So I'm going to start by activating the Rate Soft, see if that gets the negation from the opponent. It doesn't, so I'm going to special Fenrir and activate the Reichphobia. This does get the D-Save Worm negation, so I'm pretty grateful for that, because that means I get to proc the Fenrir effect on my field. And the Singularity is going to bounce the Fenrir, which could special itself anyway, but I opted to activate the Havness effect here instead. This was a bit of a hedge, but I thought it was not that likely that they're playing a second Alimbertian, and even if they did, you know, all I'm really missing out on here is the Fenrir body on board, which has already used the effect, so that's kind of whatever. Alright, a lot of things are happening here. Let me go ahead and pause and show you what happened here. So, the Havness, upon summoned, milled the Soliac. Soliac, I'm going to use that to add Rhinoheart, which I then normal summon to send the Shiren. I'm going to use Shiren's effect to actually summon the Kaleidoheart here. Now I can put back the Terahertz, and I don't have to worry about it. And really the only factor left is just one face-down card, right? I'm going to use Pearl Rhino to add the Shiren here, and activate Shiren, sending the Fenrir in order to mill 3. I got really lucky and milled the Havness here, but I also milled the Scream, so I get to chain block the Havness mill with the Scream F, or the Havness F with the Scream F, to add the Meta Noise. Havness is going to fuse itself with the, what's it called? Shiren, duh, in order to summon the Kiklos. Now I get to proc both Kiklos and Pearl Rhino. There was actually a reason why I targeted the face-down card that I did. It was the one they set first. I usually target the one they set first. In this case, it was Super Fact. I would have liked to have hit the other card, but I was like, eh, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to bring back the Rhinoheart via its own effect. And now I get to use Tier Cash F to banish the Fenrir in my yard to summon it. Mill 3. I'm just going to move to battle phase here before trying to make any more plays. And yeah, that'll be far more than enough damage for lethal there. So that's pretty cool. That was a way of showing how we not only played through the Mathmech board, but Also, the mathmech board wasn't really set up optimally, but I think, again, that might have partially been due to us kind of baiting, or I guess not baiting, what's the word I'm looking for? Bluffing, that's the word. Bluffing the Nibiru using the tier cache as quick effects, which, to be fair, again, would have been easier to demonstrate during a live duel. I would like to record more live gameplay for YouTube at some point soon, because I've seen a couple of people asking for it. I do also stream on Twitch and post the VODs. You can check out the description below if you're interested in those. But, yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the next game here. This is another game that I'm really excited to show you all. We're playing against Yumi's Stun, and it is Stun because they are playing a lot of different floodgates. They have Rivalry Goes In, Grave of Super Ancient Organisms, and, you know, you could argue that Kyryu shit is also a floodgate, or it's a Stun, whatever, you know. It's Yumi, they are playing floodgates though, too. So I'm going to start with the Terratop and add the Toktomborg. Opponent's going to throw out the Maxi. So I'm just going to pass right over to them here. I don't really like playing into Maxi turn 1 literally ever, so here they're going to end up setting 3 cards and passing. And you might be able to guess which 3 they are based on what I just said, but if you can't, don't worry, our opponent's going to flip all of them up here. Rivalry, Goes In, and Grave of the Super Ancient Organisms. And we didn't put Heartbeat in our deck. Whatever will we do? Well, we're just going to have to win this duel through all of these floodgates here. So I'm going to start by specialing the Toktomborg. And I thought for a moment that just turning the Terratop to attack and smacking for 1800 was the most amount of damage I could do. But I actually found a line here. So what I'm going to do after specialing the Toktomborg is actually tribute setting the Destrudo. Because I can't tribute summon the Destrudo because it's not a wind machine, but I can still set it. But by tribute setting it, I get rid of both the Terratop and Toktomborg and don't put a face-up monster on the field. This means I can now summon whatever I want under both Rivalry and Goes In. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to Foolish the Shiren to activate its effect, to fuse it with the Havness in my hand to summon Tearlaments Kitkalos. Now, Tearlaments Kitkalos is level 5. That means it's not affected by Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. I'll go ahead and add the Shiren, which is also a Dark Aqua monster, and special it by sending the Fairy Tale Snow from my hand to the yard. For good measure, I'll also go ahead and use this Water Enchantress that I milled as well. But now I can battle for over 4,000 damage, which puts our opponent on a turn 2 clock. And they didn't summon a monster or set anything else last turn, so I'm guessing they're pretty much in top deck mode now. They are going to activate a Legendary Ocean and set a couple of cards, but not do anything else. So this kind of confirms to me, like, I don't think they have anything. So I'm just going to move straight to battle phase. Battle into them again, and sure enough, they go ahead and end up conceding here. So this was the other game. I mean, we've got a couple of other good games here, too, against Snake Eye coming up. But this was another game I was really excited to show because, again, we played not by removing the floodgates. We actually played through them. And through a line that actually allowed us to get the wind machines off of our board. Because normally that would have been very, very bad for us. But thankfully, it's like the one time you would want to have Destrudo in hand. But thankfully, we had Destrudo in hand. I guess we could have had a couple of other double tribute monsters as well. But in any case, that was a pretty nice comeback there, if I do say so myself. Like I said, we got a couple of Snake Eye games coming up here, so let's look at those. So as I mentioned at the end of that last game, this opponent that we are going to be facing off against will, in fact, end up being on Snake Eyes. Alright, let's see how we open this time. Not the best, unfortunately. Gonna have to bank pretty hard on this Shiren Mill. Though it is one thing about this deck that I will say is that you have quite a few Garnets, but goddamn, look at that Shiren Mill. We milled a Havness and a Shiren. I'm actually not going to use the Shiren in the yard, just Havness and summon the Kitkalos here, but I will use Kitkalos' effect. That's going to get Ash Blossomed. So I guess in that regard, you can make an argument that if I was anticipating Ash Blossom, I should have fused with the Shiren on the field and not the one in the yard. But I think like 9 times out of 10, like, you know, we don't play around Ash. We don't expect them to have exactly Ash Blossom, and keeping the extra body on board is never a bad thing. But yeah, like I was saying, this deck does have kind of a high number of Garnets. It's like Scareclaw Rival, Wandering Griffin Rider, Toktomborg. These are cards we don't really want to open. Destrudo to an extent, even though that worked for us last time. Dracoback is another one, so yeah, I'm going to try to use the Ash Blossom on the Snake Eye Ash, but they're going to have the cross-out designator here. But thankfully, we do have the Max C, so maybe there was another reason to play around, like, the Ash Blossom on my turn, like using the Shiren on the field instead of the one in the graveyard. But again, I think most of the time it's better just keep the body on the board. So when they go to Special Poplar, I'm just going to go ahead and use my Max C. Now, to make sure I get draws, I draw another Max C, which is not the best, but they're going to add the field spell, which will then activate and place the Flambridge from deck. Triple attack is going to be a hand rip here, which kind of confirms to me they don't plan on playing into the Max C anymore. They're going to put back my C, battle over the Shiren, and then pass over to me. So, the only play I think I really have here is using Kiklos to summon the Shiren. Top deck Shiren isn't the best, but also the worst draw in the world either, so I'm going to do just that and mill 5 here, and thankfully I mill 5 pretty good cards. Tier Cash, Revolution Synchron, and Water Enchantress were all in there, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to use the Tier Cash to mill a couple of more before going for the Water Enchantress F to get the Adventure token. Unfortunately, I don't actually have a target for the Fateful Adventure because the Wandering Griffin Rider is already, it was in the yard, I just banished it, so I can't send Shiren off of its effect. Also, if you're wondering about Supreme Sea Mare, this wasn't my initial build, but I took it out because it's like, oh, normal summon monster, or rather monster with a normal summon effect plus adventure doesn't seem like it really blends that well together. So if you're wondering why there's Supreme Sea Mare, that's why. This is an old build. Anyway, Dracoback's gonna equip. I'll bounce the Flamber Dragon back to hand before overlaying for the Time Thief Redoer. Gonna use my Redoer's effect to proc the Shiren, and then that will allow me to summon Rolkalos. Fun fact, this is my 5th summon, and other fun fact, my opponent started getting past priority here, so I figured they probably had an Nibiru in hand, but we have Rolkalos, like I said, so I'm not really concerned about it. I'll just summon the Shiren and move to battle here. I don't think I had too many other plays here as far as, like, putting stuff on the board or anything. I don't really know why they put Ash Blossom in the Spell Trap Zone either. They could have used the Divine Temple F to push a Snake Eye monster out to the main zone and use its effect, but yeah, I guess they decided they weren't able to get through my board. And I actually drew the Max C off the Redoer on their turn, which I was like, oh shit, that's really good. But I didn't even end up using it, as you can see. They conceded before I even had a chance to throw it out. So I knew 2 of the 4 cards in their hand, Snake Eye Flamber Dragon and Nibiru, because again, they started getting priority. I mean, I guess they could have been bluffing, but it's like, I don't really think they were. And also, even if they were, it's like, is that even that good of a bluff? And even if they, again, if they had actually had Nib, I had the roll close too. So, all right, we have one more game to show. Let's go ahead and see it here. All right, final opponent is going to be against another Snake Eyes player. As you can see, this is still the older build. It had 2 Supreme Sea Mare. I took those out for a second Scream and the Meta Noise is what I put in. All right, we're going to go first. Going to start by specialing the Terror Top. But it's going to throw out the Max C. I have the Ash Blossom here, so we have the counter for that. Which is, of course, very, very good. And they're actually going to use Imperm on the Terror Top, which is pretty good for me, for them to use an Imperm here. Not have to worry about it coming down against something else later. Terror Top is good interaction bait in that regard. So I'm going to normal summon the Rykart here and add the Arrival. And I am actually planning on using the Shiren to pitch Max C. They're going to droll, so I'm going to have to hope that these Shiren mills are pretty good. Unfortunately, I did mill a Soliac, but under the droll I cannot actually add a Tearlaments monster to my hand. So I'm not able to go for any fusion plays here. I'm going to have to go into Redoer and then just pass. Redoer F is going to equip, I believe this is Crossout Designator, if I recall correctly. Yes. They're going to set a card and move to End Phase. End Phase, I'll use the Redoer F detach Crossout to draw. Rhoda is a pretty good draw here. I'm going to pick up the Snake Eye Ash from them. Activating the Rhoda to add a Tearlaments Rhino Heart here. I'm then going to normal summon the Rhino Heart and use the effect to mill the Havness. Havness F will activate. Opponent does have a Called By, though, and that is going to, unfortunately, banish and negate the Havness. However, I do still have a Shiren underneath this Time Thief Redoer, so I could still potentially start doing fusion plays here. Gonna activate Redoer effect, detach the Shiren, and activate. They have a Max C. So given they didn't have plays last turn, I'm not gonna want to play into this Max C here. I don't know, there actually is an argument to what if I did. But the thing is, I can't guarantee to get lethal here if I play into the Maxi, which is kind of another factor as to why I'm not playing into it. I'm going to add a Rhino Heart for a potential follow-up turn, and then battle with the Kickless and the Terratop before passing over to my opponent, only giving them the one draw off of the sea. So, again, just gonna have to hope that it's not a play here. I did attach a Snake Eye Ash, so I'm like, maybe I'll have it here, but nah. They've got the Diabell Star sending the Flamberge Dragon. They set the Wanted, but this to me just tells me they have the original Sin in hand, which they do, so yeah. That'll allow them to summon out the Ash from the deck, and from there they are going to be able to have plays. Adding and then specialing the Poplar. Poplar F will then grab the Divine Temple. Divine Temple is going to come down here, and that'll place probably Flamberge Dragon. Oh no, Oak, that's right, they actually placed an Oak here. They're going to send the Oak with the Ash to summon the Flamberge Dragon. Now they can activate Flamberge F. They're going to push back my Kickless before linking off with the Poplar in order to go into the Hita. Bit of an irregular line here, but I do have an Ash Boss in my graveyard, so they can use Flamberge Dragon to Ash and Oak here, and now they get to use the Oak effect because they haven't used the... yeah, they haven't used the Oak's effect yet this turn. They placed it in the Spell Trap Zone earlier, so... yeah, with my Ash Boss, I'm going to make the Nightmare Unicorn. I figured at this point, oh yeah, that's definitely just going to be an Access Code OTK here, because they have the Hita and the Nightmare Unicorn, so they do have multiple pops. And thanks to the Field Spell, they have enough damage on board. Oh, and then Poplar gets to place itself for a good measure. This was close, though. This was pretty close to a W on my part. It came down to whether or not they were going to end up drawing it out, and it seems like, yeah, they got the Diabell Star there at the end. I'm guessing their hand was Flamberge Dragon Wanted. Well, they had one of those two cards, probably the Flamberge Dragon if I had to guess, as their last card in hand. And then they got the Maxi draw on the draw for a turn, and that would have been Wanted and Diabell Star, which makes sense. Okay, so yeah, that'll do it for these games. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the list. I had a lot of fun with this deck. I'm definitely going to keep working on it and tweaking as I keep testing it in Master Rank here this season. But yeah, thanks again for watching. Let us now move to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.